Hi, my name is Nicholas Superpena, and I'm one of the SEEP statisticians in the Pacific Regional Field Office. Today, I would like to talk about Section I, Field Operations. Information collected in the Field Operations section is used to identify tillage systems, timing of grazing events, and crop residue levels, as these are the all-important factors that are important in estimating soil erosion, as well as nutrient and pesticide losses. This allows examination of the impact of the conservation compliance provisions of the most recent Farm Bill on tillage systems, cropping and grazing practices, and crop residue levels. Before we get started, it's important to note that some items in Section C will be indicators of special situations you will need to be recording in Section I. By the end of this presentation, you should be able to identify what should be included and excluded in the field operations tables, identify how to look up and code the farm machinery during field operations, discern how to properly code a sequence number, understand when to record the depth of tillage, and notice data relationships between Section C and I. Field operations to include are land forming, tillage, preparing for irrigation before seeding, custom operations, planting, harvesting, pruning, hedging, topping, hauling within the field, residue management, and the start and stop of grazing. There is even a handy little checklist at the top of each crop year that you can use to make sure that you're including all field operations in this section. Make sure to exclude any lime and gypsum, as well as any fertilizer, manure, and pesticide applications, as those have already been reported in previous sections. We also want to make sure that we are not including any hauling done from the edge of the field. Our in-field operations stop once the crop is physically off the field. Here are some things you need to look out for in this section. Machines, such as ditch cleaners, are used at the edge of the field should not be included. Exclude hauling from field edge to barns, grain bins, dryers, or cleaners, and any other location. Always make sure to double check your machine and crop codes for consistency. Getting one digit wrong can be the difference between a crop harvester and a flamethrower. Lastly, make sure you include all field operations, even if they include the failure of one crop, requiring more tillage and replanting of a new crop. You must have the dates and sequence number of operations in the correct order. What does a typical crop year look like, you might ask? A crop year includes all of the field activities that occur after the previous crop is harvested and ends when the current year's crop leaves the field. Operations after the harvest of the previous crop need to have the crop code of the current crop. So, for example, if barley was harvested from the field in the fall of 2023 and soybeans were planted in 2024, the crop code for all post-barley harvest activities and all pre-soy planting activities for the 2024 crop year will be recorded on the 2024 table with a crop code of 120 for soybeans. There are exceptions to this rule, which include the removal of crop residues and the utilization of cover crops. These will be discussed later in this presentation. Now let's look at the field operations table. You will want to start by asking what happened after harvest of the preceding crop year, and then keep going in the order that the operations were performed. Enter the sequence number of each operation in the order it occurred. Each crop year should start with a sequence number of 1. List all implements used on this field, beginning with the first trip over the field after harvest of the preceding crop and continuing through harvest from the field. Your dates and sequence numbers should go together in chronological order. The far left column is your line number. If more lines are needed, utilize a supplement sheet. In columns 3 and 5, please write out the crop and type of equipment. The corresponding crop and machinery codes can be found in your respondent booklet. Crop codes are found on pages 4 through 7. Machinery codes are on pages 39, 40, and 41. As a reminder, the sequence numbers and line numbers do not have to match. Say the producer forgot that he grazed his cattle on his winter wheat in the fall. Just add the start and stop grazing operations to the next available lines and readjust your sequence numbers. No need to scratch out all the work that you have previously done. Also worth noting is the tillage depth recorded in lines 1 and 2. Any time that the soil is disturbed by machinery, by ways of planting, tilling, or cultivation, you will want to record the depth of soil disturbance on the sampled field to the nearest tenth of an inch. Always include 0.0 after a whole number when recording depth. Now let's look at some other special situations that you may come across during data collection, such as residue harvest, cover crops, grazing, etc. Most of these situations listed on this slide will be highlighted in section C and will hint you to a special situation once you hit section I. We will refer to items in section C and their relationship to the field operations table for the remainder of this presentation. Let's dive into this a little bit more. Any post-harvest operations will typically go with the following crop year, except any shredding of cotton stalks, post-harvest grazing of stubble, baling of stubble such as wheat straw, or stalk chopping. If section I.0 in section C is marked as a yes, then you will have these post-harvest operations to list in the field operations table. Say a producer harvested the wheat straw after the 2022 wheat harvest. The stubble harvest and baling operations will be included on that 2022 crop year table. Strip cropping is the practice of planting multiple crops in alternating strips in one field to prevent soil erosion. If the field is specifically strip cropped, include the operations for each crop, making sure to record the current crop code for each operation. For example, say a producer has planted alternating sections of dry edible peas and canola in one field. They disked the field until they planted and had no field operations until they harvested. This will equate to 6 lines of data in the field operations table: disking, planting, and harvesting for both dry edible peas and for canola. You can find an example of the field operations table related to strip cropping on page 177 of your interviewer's manual. If there is strip cropping in your field, there will be multiple crops listed in the cropping history table in section C. Often, cover crops are planted in the fall and terminated in the spring. Record the cover crop on the operations table of the year that it was removed or terminated. Include all operations required to produce the cover crop, including planting, maintaining, and removing/terminating the cover crop. For example, if a cover crop is planted in 2021 and terminated in 2022, all field operations associated with that cover crop will be recorded in the 2022 crop year. In section C, item 1B, for the intended use of the crop will be coded in section C, item 1B, the intended use of the crop will be coded a 4, cover crop. As is very common with hay, some crops can be harvested multiple times through the growing year. In addition to recording any tilling, planting, or cultivating, you will want to record all harvesting operations that occurred in that cropping year. If hay was harvested 3 times that year, 3 lines in the table would be dedicated to harvest operations. If you run out of lines in the questionnaire, you can utilize a supplement sheet. If the supplement sheet is insufficient or the operation cannot report every harvest date, record at least the first and last harvest operations. Leave detailed notes about how frequently the field was harvested and the total number of harvests for that crop. There will be no indicators in section C for multiple harvests of one crop. If livestock are present at any time during the year, record the date when livestock are turned out into the field as well as the date that they are removed. If livestock are rotated on and off multiple times throughout the year, this should be captured each time using the start graze and stop graze operations on 2 separate lines. If livestock are rotated on and off the field multiple times, include each time they are turned out and removed from the field as separate operations. You can see an example of multiple grazing operations in a field on page 173 of your interviewer's manual. In section C, there will be several indicators of grazing operations you will need to list in section I. The intended use for item 1B will indicate grazing, and items 1P through 1S will also be completed. Tandem field operations refer to multiple field operations occurring at the same time. These should be recorded with the same sequence number and date, as shown in the example. A common instance of this is a spike-tooth harrow connected to a regular tandem disc. As you can see, we have recorded both machinery items as sequence number 1 with the date of July 12th, 2024. Remember, when implements recorded in column 5 and 6 disturb the soil, you need to record the depth of soil disturbance. In the above example, The spike-tooth harrow reached a depth of 1.5 inches. The tandem disc reached a depth of 5 inches, and the planter planted the soybeans at a depth of 1.5 inches. You can find more information on tandem field operations field on page 175 of your interviewer's manual. Like multiple harvests, there will be no indicators in section C of tandem operations. Oftentimes, farmers will replant a crop or plant a different crop when a weather-related event such as drought, hailstorm, or flood destroys the first crop. When recording either the replanting of the original crop or the planting of a substituting crop, the field operations that occurred for both should be recorded. For an example of how to complete the table due to a crop failure, see page 176 of your interviewer's manual. There will be indicators of crop failure in section C. Item 1N, acres abandoned or not harvested, will be completed and the acres harvested in item 1L may be less than the acres planted. If the crop was replanted, there will be multiple crop codes. Make sure to include both the failed and replanted crop activities in section I. This concludes our presentation on section I, the field operations section. For more information about section I, refer to your SEEP interviewer's manual. If you have any questions, reach out to your field office contact or NASDA coordinator. Thank you for your time and good luck with your data collection.